93.5 feet, fencing 67.5 feet, and retaining walls 97 feet from the bluff crest where 150-foot setbacks are required. One variance of 3 feet from section 255-4-30 of the town code is required to allow the sanitary system to be constructed 147 feet from freshwater wetlands where a 150-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. This is in a B residence zoning district. The flood zone here is X flood zone and VE22 flood zone. The secret class is type 2. And council, do we have a proper affidavit of service and posting?
What I have is a mailing on the 5th of August and posting on the 6th of August, so paperwork appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you, Nancy Lynn. Okay, this once again, Terry has been busy this week. Terry, if you would, with your field report, please.
Okay, this is the official notice of posting. The property was properly posted. Next. Now I took a shot down toward the east from Surfside Avenue. And you can see that grade's downhill. Next, I took a shot going up Surfside toward the east. If I said east before, I meant west. And you can see something of the neighborhood there. Next, this is a shot from across the street, just to give you a wider breadth of the applicant's property at the street level. Next, this is the beginning of the driveway. I'm going to start walking up the driveway and then do a tour around the house. You can see the garage in front up the hill. Next. This is another shot from the driveway showing, again, some of the native, the vegetation. Wasn't all native. There was some native vegetation in there of the applicant's property on the western side of the driveway. Next. And then you can see the garage, the existing garage today. He continues up the driveway to the parking area on the right. The house beyond the cars in the photo is the neighbor to the west. Next. This is a shot now standing at the top where the cars are parked. And this is a shot at the structure on the eastern, I guess it's a shed. There's a garden in front of it. And then you can see the fencing, and there's a gate to the right that's out of the picture. I'm going to be going through that gate toward the house and toward the bluff. Next. Now I'm on the inside of the gate, and there's a table there. I'm not sure. I was trying to get creative on the shot, but looks like I only got an enlarged picnic table there with the curve. So anyway. So I'm going to walk down now with grades. I'm at the top of the grade basically for the property. And now I'm going to start walking down. There's some stone steps. There are a couple of dogs. So toward the house, that's the main house there. And this is the grassy area here. You can see there are a lot of retaining walls on this property. The grading is very different. It's very steep in a lot of areas. And I'm going to continue walking down the west side of the house. Toward the bluff crest. Okay, well, there's a shot in the direction that I'm going to be walking. Next. And yeah, I'm not sure what I was trying to do here, but I believe I was standing near the top of in front of the bluff crest and trying to take a shot of the rear part of the house as it exists today. I got the first floor. I think there's another shot with more of that in the next one. So this is the same basic shot, and that's the lower portion that we had in the other photo, but you could see the 2 stories, and you could see its proximity to the bluff crest as it exists today. Next. Now I'm standing at the top of the steps that lead down to the water. And it's a shot there. There's this living space down here. I think these were all pre-existing. And you can see the steps to the right that are coming down are coming from the neighbor's property. These are the steps of the applicant's property. And next. And it's another shot. Looking up toward the east. And you see there are a lot of these staircases as you go up along the shoreline here. Next. Now I'm still at that same point, just taking a shot back to the side of the existing house today. and you could see the shed in the distance and get a sense of the grading, again, going up, and then I'm going to go back up. Next. And now I am back up. I'm standing in the front of the house toward near where the front door is. I'm just taking a shot of what it looks like today. Again, the retaining walls, then return and take a shot next toward the east, and the eastern fence. You can see the property line there where the fencing is, and more of that, some more retaining wall, and again up at the shed and the garden to the left. And next, now going back up, you get these stone steps that exist today, and then back up toward the parking area. And these were, not sure what that's designating, and this is the final shot. You can't really see from the garage level of the house. You cannot see the next door neighbor on the east. This is the chimneys of that house. That's all I could get in the shot from here. And I believe that's the last shot.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Board members, any questions? No? Okay, we will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent.
Hi, good evening, board members. Thank you for proceeding with these applications through this method. I know we have one of our participants who is tried to get in through Zoom and is now trying to get on via number. My name is Karen Hogue from Toomey Latham. I'm here on behalf of Eric Cole and his family. I know that we've submitted a lot of material on this application, and we have a lot of speakers who want to talk to the board, so I'll try to be brief. With me tonight to talk about the application are Emily Raby from InterScience, Paul Massey from Bates Massey Architects, who will be speaking about the design of the project and site improvements. Vin Gordiello of the Rayner Group will discuss the construction protocol report and answer any technical and engineering questions. Dr. Lee Wishart from the Woods Hole Group will discuss his analysis and determination that the project will not impact the bluff. Ian Handback from LaGuardia Design Group will discuss the proposed native buffer of 7,022 square feet. But before turning over to them, I wanted to provide the board with some background on the application and touch upon a few important project details that demonstrate the cumulative beneficial effect of this amended project.
Okay, Karen, good evening. I'm going to jump in for a second.
Sure.
We know this is a big project, but as you probably know, we typically our goal here is to give the applicant 10 minutes or so to speak, and each one of your consultants 3 minutes to speak. So we have all of your information.
Okay.
We're very good at reading through this stuff. So we certainly don't need you to read anything, or any of your consultants to read things that we already have in front of us. But just to let you know, with all these consultants, we're going to be kind of keeping a watch, and so we have to keep things moving along. But we do understand this is a big project, and we tend to be a little more lenient because, board members will have questions and that sort of thing. But that's the goal, okay?
Okay, no, completely understood. One thing that I wanted to point out for the board too is that there was an error on the public notice, which was carried actually over into my memo of law. The notice stated that the existing house is 1,896 square feet. That is actually the number for the building coverage as set forth in our application rider at page 4 and in Tyler's technical report. So the GFA of the existing house is 2,030 square feet. So if we can make that change. And also existing on the house is approximately 1,200 square foot of decking and a 264 square foot detached garage, shed, and sanitary system. A lot of the information regarding this application.
Can I ask you a question? You're saying that there's issues with the notice. Can you tell me whether or not there are issues with any of the variances that you're asking for, or are they just on existing the existing conditions?
It's on the existing conditions, and the variance setbacks in the notice are over noticed. Actually, we moved the project more landward. So if you see on our technical, our amendment to the zoning board application that we filed late July, there is a schedule contained on,
I think we may be talking about two different things though, right? The square footage, I don't think affected your notice because that
No.
was the prior home, correct?
Right. That's correct. The square footage of the existing home doesn't affect the notice.
Yeah,
And-
so you've presented a revised, more current revised building plan, which adjusts the variances that were originally noticed.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Sir, what is that plan? That the revised plan, is that what you submitted on August 14th?
No, it was actually submitted on July 24th. So in that revised plan, it'll show you that the history and the comparison of the application that was initially before the board back in February 2019. And then there was a filing in May of 2019. And then we had made further modifications after we received the technical analysis report from Tyler, which we received in January of 2020. So the filing that was done on July 24th has been updated, and there are various charts in there which show that the project has been moved further landward. So you can see the history of the project.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a letter from Toomey Latham dated July 24th. And 3 sets of, I just want to make sure I have all the sets of also. That was included in that package?
Yes, it was included in the package, and it's also on the zoning board's website.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Just maybe, is it this, just to be clear, is it this document here, Karen? This is the one you're referring to? I believe this was in our board's packets this week.
Yeah. So that document was submitted in July. That's the report from the Woods Hole Group.
Woods Hole, okay.
So all those documents were submitted on July 24th, and I did check the website, and they're all posted.
Okay.
Okay. So I know I'm eating into my 10-minute allotment here. So basically, in order to just recap what the new application is that was filed on July 24th, the gross floor area of the residence was further reduced for a total reduction of 418 square feet since its initial filing. And the structure was pulled back an additional 4.5 feet from the bluff crest, measuring 115 feet from the top of the bluff against the 6 feet setback of the pre-existing house. The GFA is well under the permissible 4,426 square feet. Building coverage, total lot coverage, proposed clearing have all been reduced in response to Tyler's January 2020 technical review analysis. No variance relief is needed for coverage, clearing, or GFA, nor are variances needed for height or pyramid. The proposed swimming pool, patio, and attached decks have been pulled further landward. The proposed pool has also been reduced in size. There was a pool house that was on the initial submission that has been completely removed. Our amended application narrative on page 3 provides a chart showing the various comparisons of existing and proposed setbacks over the course of the project, and also the setback relief that we are currently seeking. There's a chart on page 3 which sets forth the new requested relief from the setback from the top of the bluff as well as from the wetland boundary. So the project is vastly an improvement over what exists today and has been significantly modified since our initial filing in 2018. The aerial photograph, or the aerial site plan, if you will, dated July 2020, prepared by InterScience, demonstrates the significant improvement over the existing conditions. I won't go through all the various standards in detail. It's in our application rider as well as our memo of law. But specifically, the house proposed conforms with the overall character of the neighborhood. At least 10 of 15 improved properties along Surfside Avenue have swimming pools similar in size to the proposed, and properties have received bluff crest setbacks. The project will not cause an adverse impact on the environment, and Dr. Wisher will discuss the town's concerns regarding possible impacts to the bluff. There are a lot of site constraints on this property. There's a wetland pocket to the northwest and the bluff crest to the south. The building envelope is literally sandwiched between those two natural features. The architects have been able to site the house without need for any pyramid or height variances, and Paul Massey of Bates Massey will discuss that with the board. We have received 5 letters in support of the proposed project from the following neighbors. We received letters from Julie and Spencer Rice at 88 Surfside, Lee Schreiber at 93 Surfside, Phyllis and Ralph Macchio at 92 Surfside, and Templeton at 66 Surfside, and Dave Sokolin at 91 Surfside. The applicant and the project team have listened to the town and taken great efforts to propose a reasonable development of this site so that the applicant and his growing family can have a better use of their property, and also to move structures further landward from the bluff. At this time, I'd like to see if Paul Massey can jump in. He's on a telephone line, and he can discuss the design of the project.
Chair, if I may, I can unmute that phone call right now.
Sure, please do.
Just a moment.
And for those listening who are waiting, the other consultants, if you're not an attorney, I will have to swear you in before you start to speak on this application. Is Paul with us now?
Just a moment, John. I'm going to unmute him right now.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. It's Paul Massey.
Hi, Paul. Good evening. You may have heard, I was just saying for all of the consultants that aren't attorneys, I have to swear you in, as you know. So I'll start by doing that. Paul, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm
Yes.
to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. So I'll try to move this quickly along. There's just 2 things I wanted to clarify. As Karen was going through the GFA that's permitted, the actual permitted GFA is 4,526. She said 4,400. So we're about 1,000 square feet below what is permitted for our proposal. And the second thing, and I don't want to bring it up again too much, but it's just in the technical analysis, Tyler had mentioned the existing GFA of the house as 1,896. That's actually the building coverage. So it just got switched around, and the actual existing house is 2,030 square feet.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Who's controlling the drawings? We submitted drawings on a flash drive that I understand that can be pulled up.
Yeah, Tyler's our technical guru on this. Tyler, thank you.
Hello, Tyler. Can you bring up a drawing, the first one from Bates Massey? There's about a 40-second delay in the screen, so it may be up. But if
He has ZBA 1 up there first right now.
perfect, great. I'll start going through that.
Yep.
So in this diagram, bottom half of the drawing, this represents the plan of the house, and what we're doing is we're cutting a section through the property and through the existing residence and the proposed residence. So that's the upper half of the drawing. Mm-hmm. You'll see the existing residence, which is in a pink color, showing the vertical line, it's a dashed line that shows the top of bluff, and the house is approximately about 6 feet. The proposed structure, which is shown to the left in a beige tone, that is showing that it's 115 feet. What to us, which was important to the clients, I'm sure you can understand the existing residence, the view being 6 feet from the bluff is a panoramic. By moving the house back 115 feet, we've reduced that view But what's also important to note, and we indicate that with another vertical dash line, is the crest of the hill. And so essentially, we've moved the house just behind the crest of the hill. We keep going back any further. What begins to happen is we'll break our pyramid code, we'll break our height limit. We would also lose the view, importantly, and we would be encroaching onto the wetlands, which are on the north side of the property. I won't go over the numbers that are up top, but we graphically illustrated the 3 submissions from 2018, from 2019 to 2020, and progressively how we've reduced the scope of the project each time. Tyler, if you don't mind going to the next ZBA 2 drawing.
Yeah, we have that on the screen, Paul. We have that.
Great, thank you. So this was a comparison showing the existing non-conforming GFA, and so that is the sort of red and pink dashed envelope that's shown closest to the top of bluff. It is existing 2,030 square feet of non-conforming GFA. What we'd like to illustrate on this is that with the new proposed structure, it's 1,677 square feet of non-conforming GFA. So essentially the total GFA of what's proposed is less than what's existing. Tyler, next.
You meant to say the non-conforming GFA that's proposed, not the total GFA proposed.
Well, yes, the total non-GFA.
Right.
No, sorry, the proposed non-conforming GFA,
Right.
is less. It's about 400 square feet less.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Next, if you're on that, the ZBA 2.1.
We got it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. The diagram on the right, this is the lot coverage. This is the non-conforming lot coverage, which is 3,394 square feet. The diagram on the left shows that the existing non-conforming lot coverage is 3,567. So in the proposed non-conforming lot coverage, it's actually less than what's there now. Okay? And one of the things to note about that is the non-conforming lot coverage is substantially pulled back from the bluff. Tyler, the next.
We have it, Paul.
Great. So the diagram on the right shows from the 50-foot top of bluff offset, and this is for vegetation. What we're proposing is just a pathway of 188 square feet. If you look at the diagram on the left, this shows existing non-conforming clearing of 4,157 square feet. This is primarily all lawn, and this is the area of the watershed that Dr. Lee mentioned that would significantly help any sort of erosion that may occur if it was planted, revegetated. So there's quite a big difference there. And then if you can go to ZBA 3.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay. So in this diagram, what we're illustrating, and this is something we've worked with the Rayner Group on, and based on soil analysis, the typical home required to contain all the stormwater runoff is they're put in dry wells, which are located several feet below grade. In this particular application, that's something that would not work as well because we have this clay impermeable lens for the water, which is what happens is the water that begins to filter through hits that lens, rolls out the bluff face or back towards the wetland. With Rainer, we've developed a diffusion well on either side of the house that will be able to bring the water past that clay lens and get down into the aquifer, thus not promoting any erosion. The house itself, which is shown up top, we've shaped the house in such a manner that is able to catch all the water on the roof and then divert it into the wells, which are on either side of the house. Lastly, I just want to talk to you about the swimming pool. It came up as a question the last time we were before you. We've consulted with 2 pool consultants, Blue Square and Water Shapes on the West Coast. Both have suggested a product called Flexcrete, and this is prevention of pools to leak. And it's a 3-part system. We've incorporated that into our drawings, and we've also included the technical bulletin for you to review.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Board members,
Any questions
for Paul? No, Jim?
Well, I'm no engineer, but I have to say the drainage, ZBA 3, the drainage strategy looks pretty scary. So ultimately, the water is going to end up where? I mean, it's still going to go either under the bluff or to where?
Okay, so that's a really good question. This is something that's adapted from the health department requirements for a septic system in this particular area, and a lot of areas actually in Montauk. When you put in a septic system, if there is unsuitable soil, the health department asks you to dig down until you hit sand. Once you dig down until you hit sand, you fill that hole back up, and so that way that your septic system can leach properly and not get to the sort of an impermeable layer, and it would not drain and filter properly. So this is really just an adaptation of that. It's something of an extra cost because we have to cut down to a depth that's suitable to find sand, but that would allow the water to actually drain into the aquifer as opposed to hitting the clay.
And when you said you fill, and Terry, it's filled as with sand. When you fill it with sand, that's how it percolates. It's a percolation. When
That's
it's back.
exactly right. Thank you.
Any other questions, board members, for Paul Massey?
The swimming pool on the survey in front of us, it does look like you would have a little bit more room to move that swimming pool further landward. Is a patio or something there? It's hard to see what's on the screen, but
Yes, that is the patio, and we have about 9 feet between the pool and the overhang of the house. So a typical lounger is about 6 feet, and then we left 3 feet to walk behind it. And that was one of the areas that we reduced significantly and made the pool width narrow as well.
and the pool width is now what?
I'll get that for you.
Okay. Well, that was in your chart. Was that in your chart, I believe? Your comparison
So
charts?
the pool is 13 feet wide.
Mhm.
So you have this proposed deck and then proposed, can't read that, between the deck and the pool. What is
It's a
between the deck and the
That's
pool?
correct. That's
Proposed terrace.
That's a terrace.
Yeah.
the terrace. The deck is actually is covered area from upstairs. So it's a covered porch. So there's living
Okay, so
space
you
up
could-
above the deck.
Okay, and this terrace is what's, what'd you say, 9 feet? 9 feet?
Correct.
Yes.
And that was
yes.
enough for a 6-foot lounge chair and 3 feet to walk by.
And I'm guessing the pool is about, I can't recall, it's about 50 feet. Paul, I'm guessing something like that.
It's actually 44, John.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Those are very clear. Those drawings clarify a lot of things, Paul. Thank you for those.
You're welcome.
Okay, Karen, do you want to take us to your next consultant?
So the next person that we have to speak is Vin Gordiello from the Rayner Group.
Okay. Is Vin on? Vin, is he on his audio? Is he, I mean, is,
John, I have
Is he
that.
on
Just
board?
one moment. This is Mike at
Yeah.
LTV. I'm going to unmute his phone call right now.
okay. Thank you, Mike.
Chairman Whalen, this is Vin Gordiello on the line.
Hey, Ivan. Good evening. I don't believe you're an attorney, so I'm going to have to swear you in. If you please, if you'd raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thanks, Vin. Go ahead, please. Oh, I'm wondering, I want to ask you, I'm hoping that you've been able to listen to what we've been discussing. Is that why you've been on hold? I'm hoping you're...
Yes, I've been muted. I've been listening through the phone and attempting to watch the screen through LTV, but I'm pretty much up to speed of the discussion and aware of where we are in the hearing process.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Vin. Thanks.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vincent A. Gordiello. I'm a professional engineer and principal with the Rayner Group. We have been retained on this application in the services of the project's land surveyor and engineers. In addition to preparing the site plan drawings that are before you today, we were involved with the preparation of the construction protocol report. The preparation of this report was originally presented to the board with our initial submission and has subsequently been amended based upon the proposal that is before you today. The most current protocol report is last revised July 2020. The construction protocol report that we have prepared for this project in essence sets forth the procedures, techniques, methods, and means that are intended to reduce any potential adverse impacts associated with the proposed construction. I can most certainly address specific questions that the board may have with respect to the civil engineering and sanitary design, but in essence, I just kind of wanted to give a little bit of an overview of the report that we've prepared. The construction protocol report, which is a document that we've done for other projects within the town of East Hampton, is in essence a guide and a tool for the construction of this project, as I had mentioned. In that report, we talk about the construction period. We talk about the various construction activities and operations. We also give kind of a sequence of how the construction will take place. And that is all formulated and laid out in a manner that is intended to reduce the potential impacts of construction to this site. In the report, we provide all our drawings, the landscape plan, some techniques and methods that we intend to use with the construction of the site, of which, with the construction of the drainage system, where we're talking about these diffusion wells that we intend to use at 3 locations of the property. Those 3 locations involve the sanitary leaching pool and the 2 proposed stormwater leaching pools that are proposed and shown on the site plan. Just to kind of add to what Paul had mentioned about these diffusion wells, what we are involved with the construction here is unsuitable soil conditions in which we need to penetrate through the clay in order to provide suitable leaching on our property. It's something that the health department requires with the sanitary system, and it's something that ultimately you need for your drainage structures in order for them to work properly. So our way of doing that, in essence, is to use cutting rings, which is something very common in Montauk, in which you have a solid structure that you basically are using and are sinking into the ground. And the way you do that is by you excavate inside the structure, and as you excavate, the structure settles and moves further into the earth. Once you get to a point where you are into suitable materials, and in this case we estimate that being somewhere between 45 to 50 feet below grade, you then would backfill with sand to a point where you then would install your leaching pools inside that, what should I say, concrete chamber. As I said, this is a practice that is very similar or very familiar to what conditions exist in Montauk. That information with respect to the diffusion wells and the cutting rings appears in the document in section 2.4.6, as well as in Appendix I, which lays out what these cutting rings look like. Just to, unless there's, again, I'll answer any specific questions that the board may have with this, but the intent of this protocol report, beyond setting these means up, is also to stage critical points of the construction process, which will be monitored and inspected by the town to assure that the construction of this project is being performed in a manner that complies with the zoning board's decision, should you issue a favorable one, as well as the requirements of the town of East Hampton Building Department and the various codes that would govern the construction of the project. With that said, should there be any specific questions of the design, I'd be glad to answer them for you.
Yeah, Vinny, this is Roy Deline. How are you? I've got a basic. I want to bring up maybe a possibility for two-stage limiting fence. One being set for the demolition of the house. Once the house is demolished, you set a second limiting fence potentially at the top of the bluff, so that we don't have further construction. We don't use that area where the existing house was for construction staging and stuff. We want to protect that area. So I'm looking at a two-stage limiting fence proposal.
We would have no problem with that. I mean, we do provide a staging plan that in essence shows where we would be staging, but I fully understand where you're coming from with that. Even to the extent that we could possibly stabilize that demolished area with some type of temporary, vegetation before we actually complete what was being proposed, provided, should we get in a situation where the timing of this thing doesn't permit us to revegetate that area with what would be proposed because of the conditions, we can certainly do that. I think that's a great suggestion.
And just curious, the well, the diffusion wells, when did they get installed? Before or after the foundation one? Just curious.
They would be installed prior to the foundation construction.
That's what it looks like to me. All right.
And that sequence is laid out in the construction protocol report. We do have a section
Okay.
which identifies the steps of construction.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
So Roy, I think that's a great idea. It's good for us. I know you brought that up before. It's good for this board to keep that in mind. I think probably an area for the secondary staging, the fencing would be somewhere hopefully around the 75-foot top of bluff setback. Vinny, does that?
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting is top of bluff.
No, I'm talking about 75 feet from the top of bluff back. The bluff is down by the.
Oh no, John, I'm sorry. I was looking at the setback, 75-foot setback.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Right.
I'm sorry. That's more like it.
Yeah. Is it, Vinny, and does that sound good to you? That kind of that area?
Well, I'm trying to look at my plan right now. So we got 75-foot top of bluff setback. So that's
That's what I'm talking about. It
we're
seems like that
showing
would be a good place for the secondary, limits of construction activity after you've taken the house down.
I think, yeah, I think we on our drawing C2, and let me just flip through to go through the other one here. Okay, so basically on C2, we're showing where that what I would call the second stage of that project limiting fencing would go, and on C5, where we show the most southerly boundary of the silt fence, that would be where it'd be initially, and then we would remove that, stabilize that area, and then bring that other fencing back to what is shown on drawing C2. Which is,
I don't have that open right now. Where is that about? Where is that?
That is, I'm looking at a half-scale drawing, so you're probably looking about 20, somewhere between 15 and 20 feet seaward of the 75-foot top of bluff setback.
Okay, that's what I thought it was.
Excuse me, is this C2 that's on the screen now? Did Tyler just bring that up?
It should be. I have C2. So Vinny, that would be.
We see that line. We see that line of fencing.
And that would be the proposed pool fencing, the pool enclosure, it looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks like it's like the proposed pool compliant
That actually
fence
brought
kind of
me
in that
to
area.
another question.
I mean, I'm okay with that too, John.
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Yeah. That's
I'm
fine.
okay with that.
That brought me to another question unrelated to the construction fencing, as to why the pool code fencing is so farther down toward the bluff. That looks like that could be pulled back considerably too.
We can let the applicants answer that. Whoever wants to jump in and take that one. Karen or Matt, Paul or Vinny.
All I would say is something that we could look into and discuss with the team. Again, as far as the location of that fencing, I think that was done collectively with the landscape architect, myself.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ian, maybe Ian can address that when we speak to Ian.
Ian
I believe.
to speak, so I'm sure he can address that.
Yeah, let's let Ian speak to that, Vinny. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Vinny. Any other questions, board members, for Vincent?
Well, that line that you just discussed, that's for the primary, the first construction fencing, or no, that would be the secondary.
The second, yeah.
Secondary, yeah, okay.
After they take the house down and stabilize that area until they can plant, It sounds good. Okay, thank you, Vin.
You're welcome.
Karen, who do we have next? We have Ian Hanback, or who's next?
Yeah, so next is Dr. Lee Wisher.
Oh, okay. Mike, if you could let him unmute him, or
yes,
please.
just a moment, John. I'm going to be unmuting that call right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening. Good evening. If you are not an attorney, I will swear you in, doctor. Okay.
That's
Perhaps
fine.
you have a law degree as well. Do you swear or affirm to tell?
I do not.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Good evening, and go ahead, please.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Lee Wisher. I'm from the Woods Hole Group. I'm a senior scientist there. I hold engineering degrees, and I'm a professional wetland scientist. My job was actually fairly simple on this, and since to move things along, I'm just going to hit a couple of highlights. What the applicant asked me to do was to look at the property and the proposed plan, identify potential impacts to the bluff and beach, and then make recommendations to eliminate those impacts. In short, my analysis showed that the property has been stable since about 2001, and this was demonstrated by 3 sets of analyses contained in the report. The first was a LIDAR analysis, which had data from 2010, 2014, 2017, and showed that the top of the bluff has not moved since 2010. The second was a comparison of the two site visits I did. One was in 2014. Another one the last one was in February of 2020. And the result of those site visits in the report, but basically the property remains almost entirely unchanged. The last was an analysis of the position of the apparent mean high water line, which was done between 2001 and 2019. And it showed that in front of the property that apparent high water line had not moved. Additionally, I made some specific recommendations to eliminate potential impacts of the project to the bluff. They contained protocols for demolishing the house, landscaping to eliminate runoff across the yard, and recommendations for increasing the resiliency of the coastal bank face. Now, these recommendations and protocols have all been incorporated into the construction protocols that you just heard a minute ago. And so I'm been very pleased with that. And as a result, it's my opinion that the proposed project will not impact the bluff or the beach on this property. And with that, to keep things moving along, I'd be happy to ask or answer any questions you might have, either in general or about my report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Board members, any questions? No?
No question.
Okay, thank you. We have received and been reviewing your reports and the construction protocol, of course. They're all very thorough and complete, I would say. So thank you. I don't have any questions myself, but thank you for participating in this evening's hearing. We appreciate that. Karen, next we hear from the landscape architect.
Yeah, so we have Ian on the line to speak about the landscape design, and he can also address the pool fence.
Okay. Good evening, Ian. Is he on? Oh, Michael, you're on mute here, maybe. Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This is Ian Hamback from LaGuardia Design.
Good evening, Ian. I'll swear you in. I'll first swear you in, Ian, for the evening. Okay. If you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. Good evening again, and please proceed, Ian.
Okay. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I think the other consultants have covered most of this application. I guess I just want to circle back and touch on a few of the changes from the prior iteration of this application. You'll see noted on our sheet L 2.0 that we have followed up on some of the feedback that we got from Brian Frank. Notably, we've reduced the amount of grading in the bluff area in that re-veg zone. In the prior iteration, the contours extended from the east and west property lines. We've now limited those to predominantly in the footprint of the structures that are going to be removed. And the logic there is that there's going to be disturbance around that demolition. And so if we limit the grading to those disturbed areas, we can keep the remaining grades intact. We have also, you'll see on that same sheet, we have detail plan 1 and detail plan 2. On detail plan 1, you can see that we've reduced the clearing. On the prior iteration, it was 15,804 square feet. We've reduced that by about 750 square feet to 15,049 overall. So a reduction from the last scheme. And if you look at detail plan number 2 on that same sheet, L 2.0, you'll see that the overall revegetation has been increased. On the prior iteration, it was 7,341 square feet. And on the current application, it's 8,098 square feet. So an improvement of roughly 750 plus or minus square feet of additional re-veg. So those are the overall improvements, high-level improvements on this version of the application. I believe there's another question on the fence. So I'm happy to speak to that. You know, I think we're open to moving that fence to the 75-foot bluff crest setback if the board is going to view that more favorably. The reason it was located where it is located on that plan is because we were hiding the fence in some of the taller native revegetation shrub material so that it wouldn't be so prominent in the view corridor. But I don't think we want that to become a sticking point. So again, if the board's going to view that more favorably, we're open to making that change.
Well, from the other diagram, though, I think the 75-foot line wasn't that much farther away from where you had it. I was looking at this area that you had with this curved line that I believe showed on the re-veg for some kind of fescue or grass.
So that's a mowed lawn of native non-fertilized fescue. So it's not going to have any fertilizer, but it is going to be treated as a play lawn. It's the only spot of play lawn on the entire property, so it does have some importance. We can certainly bring the fence closer to that edge, keeping it right on the edge of that transition to the re-veg buffer, and getting it close to that 75-foot bluff crest setback.
I could see, just jumping in, John Whelan here. I understand the aesthetic of not wanting to look at a pool fence, and once it's in there, I could see a 5-foot, setting it 5 feet. In other words, from the 75-foot, we're setting it 5 foot back parallel to that lawn edge or something. Board members, it seems like I understand that, and
5 foot back off the bluff.
No, in other words, 5 feet, 5 foot. See where you see the line of the fescue, Terry? I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see that. Right.
I'm saying moving the pool fence 5 feet seaward of that so that they can hide it in some native planting. That's all.
Oh, well, no, I was looking for them to move it the other way to.
Well, they would be moving it the other way.
The variance.
I think they would be moving it the other way. Correct, Ian? If you were only 5 feet from that. If you want to go back.
So, Mr. Chairman,
where they were saying didn't look that.
See, if you see the line of the pool fence.
It's a 4 foot fence. I don't see that being a big deal.
Yeah, Tyler, can you highlight where it's? I can see it, but for Terry, and everyone, can you highlight with your cursor where it's currently proposed? And then I can explain what I'm talking about. If you can highlight where it's proposed with your cursor. Right. So that's right.
Right. Okay. And the other line here is the 75 foot.
And then,
right?
And the other one's a 75, but then if you go now to the landscape plan, the lawn is set back further, a little inside, correct, Ian, from that 75? It looks like it is. If you highlight the fence, Tyler, if you could highlight on this drawing right here, if you could put your cursor on the proposed pool fence. That's what I'm getting at.
I don't see the proposed pool fence.
I see it. If you look up there, it says.
Where's the top? Is there a legend here?
Ian, can you see? I think it's here. Is it where it says portion of proposed? See the line that says portion of existing to be removed? It's right below that, I think, isn't it, Ian?
I think it's on the SX6 it intersects that. If you look for that, there's a little crosshatch area there.
Yeah.
That line.
It was on the plan that was just up previously. I don't know if that was InterScience or if that was the Rayner Group plan, but Mr. Chairman, yes, the fence is about 8 feet seaward of the 75-foot setback. It sounds like if we move that fence up roughly
right
5 feet towards the house, we'd be where we need to be, and I think we're amenable to making that adjustment.
Yeah. What I was getting at was making it 5 feet, making it parallel to your lawn line, but making it 5 foot seaward. So the point is you have an even 5 feet of vegetation to screen that pool fence, and you're still moving it a little more landward. That's my point. If that's comprehensive.
Absolutely.
Well, if it could go more than 5 feet, I don't really see the point of the screening for a 4 foot pool fence.
Tyler, you can show the fence. If you can put your cursor on the fence. You see it right there, Terry? If he moves it 5 feet parallel to the lawn, he's going to be moving it landward, not seaward. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, but how much?
It would basically be following. It would be 5 feet,
Yeah,
yeah, it'd be 5 feet seaward of the edge of the lawn of the fescue.
I personally feel moving a foot here, move foot there is kind of splitting hairs, guys.
Yeah, I think it's all going to be left alone once it's put in place, right, Roy? I mean, it's not, no one's
Yeah.
walking to it. It's, I just understand it. It seems like aesthetically for everyone, it's nicer to have it kind of buried in natural planting than being a big, an element. But anyway, we can continue on.
Mhm.
Terry, any more questions for Ian you have, or for anyone? Any of the consultants? We can always jump back, board members, if anyone has a question they want to jump back to.
I actually just wanted to clarify, Vin just pointed out to us that second fencing is noted on C5. The two-cell fence is listed on C5 on the construction protocol plan. It's shown on that diagram.
Okay. I don't know if Tyler can bring that up for a second, if it's not too difficult, Tyler.
Which plan? I'm sorry.
C5 from the Rainer Group, C5.
Rainer Group C5.
Right. So he's just been moving it. Right. You see it there. You see the 75-foot setback, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, I did.
Hats off to Vinny. All right, man. That was good.
Okay. Once he gets it.
That's C5.
Thank
Right.
you.
Right. And now put your cursor, if you please. We're looking for the proposed fence, which looks like it's the circles and line, correct? Oh, it's that one right there. Right. Exactly.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. Right. That's it right there. Right. So we would, right. So basically we'd be moving it, trying to keep it 5 feet, give them a little buffer of, yeah. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Maybe it's best just leave it where it is. You actually have it coming up to the lawn, Ian. It looks like a little bit in one place there, don't you?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe it's best that we think about leaving it right where you have it for now and consider the application that way. Board members, any questions for any of the consultants or the applicant's agent here?
John, just to clarify, we weren't talking about the pool fence. This is a silt fence?
The 2-phase.
Oh, I was talking about the pool.
No.
We've been talking about the pool fence this whole time.
Pool fence.
Right, yes. I just wanted to clarify that on the Rainer Group, C5 is also the second phase of the silt fence.
Oh, yes. Oh, thank you.
That's correct. That's
Right.
correct. And I have it pulled up in front of me, and yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah, right. Gotcha. Yep, yep. Yes, and that's called out at the bottom right, the proposed silt back fence there. Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah, that's good too. We like that. Good.
Well, the applicant seems willing to move it to the top of the bluff. Why don't we just say that? That sort of removes all the confusion here.
To the 75 top of bluff line, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it follows that same curve. Yeah.
It pretty much does. And then the lawn would be in a little bit from that, Ian, a foot or two, correct?
Yeah, we would just spread out the vegetation a little bit more to encapsulate that fence. You'd still have the same relationship of edge of lawn and re-veg. The fence would just
Right.
be moved up to meet that 75 setback. Yeah.
So, Ian, while we have you, one last question, going back to the earlier discussions, I'm hoping you were listening when we were talking about, taking the fence down and the grading and the temporary kind of stabilization of that area so there's not a lot of runoff. I'm just curious, what if you're in the wrong time of the season for planting, what would your methodology be to stabilize that area, the footprint of the existing house that's demolished, please? What would you recommend?
If we're in a pinch, we could seed that with an annual rye, something that's going to germinate and hold the slope so that we don't have any erosion until we're able to come in and implement the final re-veg plan.
And would you put a mesh down, any kind of a biodegradable mesh or something like that? Would you put down any kind of a burlap fabric or something like that?
Yeah, I was gonna say you could probably do like a jute netting, a hemp netting that could be planted into. I mean, it could potentially even stay through the final re-veg install.
Right. That sounds like a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. Board members, any questions?
No.
Okay. Karen, do you have any closing comment, a brief comment? If you have anything you want to wrap up with? Or?
Just a
What
couple.
about? Sorry.
Oh, wait, we haven't even heard from the planning.
We haven't heard from planning yet. Yeah.
We got to keep going here.
But I just want to mention before we get to Tyler that we do have the New York State DEC letter of non-jurisdiction, and that the health department approval is pending town approval.
Okay, thank you.
So let this get turned over to Tyler.
Okay, well, welcome Tyler in. Tyler, thank you for helping out here. If you would go ahead, please, Tyler.
Tyler Borsak for the planning department. So this property is located on the south side of Surfside Avenue and is contiguous with the shoreline of the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic shoreline east of downtown Montauk is the only area within the town where a 150-foot setback is required from the coastal bluffs crest. East of downtown Montauk is an area where the coastal geology changes from wind-formed dunes to glacial bluffs. The 150-foot setbacks are required due to a variety of factors, including dramatic increases in elevation and the presence of clay lenses that are prone to slumping and erosion in chunks due to the volume of water that runs over and through the bluff face. Storm activity in the past decades seems to have increased the rate of erosion within this area in general. In addition to the storms, the clay lenses throughout this area contribute to the extensive network of freshwater wetlands, which exacerbate the erosion rate along the shoreline. The wetlands within jurisdiction of the property and project are part of this clay lens influenced wetland system. Groundwater frequently flows laterally above the impervious clay layers towards the ocean, seeping out through the bluff face and undermining the soils within it. Erosion resulting from coastal processes, such as wind and wave action, combines with groundwater movement through the bluff face to produce some of the most dramatic and severe erosion in the town. There does not appear to be any significant active erosion, which would be indicated by undercutting of the bluff crest, sediment deposits at the base of the bluff, or unvegetated escarpments on the subject parcel at this time. However, it should be emphasized that all areas of the Atlantic Ocean shoreline are volatile and subject to sudden and dramatic changes as a result of coastal processes and severe weather events. And this area of Montauk has been historically erosive in general and is the only area within the town where a 150-foot setback is required. The application is a fairly substantial redevelopment of the existing property. The project includes demolishing the existing 2,080 square foot residence and associated structures 2,030 square foot residence and associated structures, and constructing a new 3,745 square foot residence with attached garage, decking, swimming pool, pool patio, sanitary system, and associated structures. The existing structures are extremely non-conforming to bluff crest setbacks. The property is located between the bluffs to the south and significant freshwater wetland to the northwest. The driveway, generators, underground utilities, the fencing and gate, walkways, regrading, sanitary system, and a portion of the attached garage and residence are within NRSP jurisdiction of those freshwater wetlands. The proposed sanitary system requires a slight variance from the wetlands to the northwest as well. Nearly the entire residence is within the 150-foot setback to the bluff crest, as well as the swimming pool, patio, decking, and associated structures. The project is proposing a fairly substantial increase to the gross floor area, lot coverage, and total lot coverages. The project is proposing a reduction in the clearing on the property, especially along the bluff crest. Coverage numbers as well as the existing proposed setbacks are detailed in the table in the assessment, as well as an updated table submitted by the applicant. Overall, the board needs to weigh the significant increases in setbacks and reductions in nonconformities against the very large increases in the size of the improvements and coverages. In the current application, the planning department's opinion, is very similar to the previous application, which was withdrawn after the public hearing. Further reducing the size of the residence, coverages, and driveway could allow for more conforming setbacks to the bluff and reduced impacts on the wetlands, as well as a possible conforming location for the proposed sanitary system. Similarly to the previous application, the board should look at the proposed structures closely. The project is proposing a significant increase in the total lot coverage and is proposing it to almost double the lot coverage. The board should examine if there are additional improvements that could be made to improve the conditions on the property and reduce the required variances and impacts of the project. Every opportunity to improve the setbacks to the bluff should be taken into consideration in an area of such dramatic erosion. The board should look closely at the amount of regrading and site disturbance. Significant regrading and the use of retaining walls around the western end of the proposed residence are required in order to access the basement garage. The proposed first floor elevation for the residence is 60 feet, where the existing grade at the center of the residence is 65 feet. The construction protocol details approximately 2,000 cubic yards to be excavated. The property has a sizable conforming building envelope that could be more efficiently utilized before variances from the bluff crest are considered. Granting substantial variances for a swimming pool, associated structures, and most of the residents when the variances are not the minimum necessary and alternatives appear to be readily available is a poor practice on all of the town's coastal properties. And other than that, I can answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, so I have a question, Tyler, and that is, has the planning department changed its position since the latest proposal was submitted?
No, it's essentially the most recent submission pulled several of the structures back roughly 10 feet. We just didn't feel that it was a significant enough change or reduction in the size of the house. A few hundred square feet, I think, with gross floor area was reduced. We just didn't feel that it was significant enough.
And the planning department's overall assessment is related to the scale of the proposal. Is that correct?
Scale, level of disturbance, amount of regrading required, which it all speaks to the scale essentially.
At the beginning of the presentation, Karen Hogue had mentioned pools on other properties. But in the very first diagram we saw, it didn't look like there are a lot of pools on the ocean side, the south side of Surfside. Can you?
I can show you the.
Yeah,
aerial.
if you could show us that. Thank you.
So this is the subject property here. I'll highlight in blue.
Yeah.
So there's one here, here. Those are obviously much further back. Whereas this parcel is sort of stuck because of the wetlands up here. And these would all be, existing for a long time.
And that goes downhill, like where these other properties are, kind of the grading is less down to the shore and the bluff.
It gets less extreme the further west you move. But they all have to have, some level of a bluff there.
So Tyler, if you look at 38 Surfside and 46 Surfside, those both have pools pretty close to the bluff that further to the west of where the applicant's property is.
Just want to make sure I get the addresses right here.
About 9 to the west, as well as the adjacent property has a pool in the rear yard.
You're speaking about, I'm assuming these two right here.
Yes, and then further to the west on Surfside, specifically 38 and 46.
Why don't we let the planning department complete their presentation before we start our rebuttal?
Sure.
Yeah, I was completed. I was just answering questions. So I'm happy to help with the GIS any way I can. It's just being very slow today for some reason.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Tyler, board members? No? Okay.
Well, how does the planning department feel about the lawn area? I know it's going to be no pesticide, herbicides, or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly small lawn area. It's not extensive. They are doing a fair amount of revegetation along the bluff, and the revegetation has gotten better. There's much more woody vegetation in there now, and yeah, so it's not a huge issue, I don't think.
Okay.
Thanks, Tyler. Anything else, Terry, or anyone? Well, okay, Karen. Any final comments, Karen, or?
Just one, I have Lee on standby to address one of the topics that Tyler raised regarding the erosion. So if he can be let in on the phone call.
Sure, just a moment.
And I guess while we're waiting for Lee, I just wanted to point out to the board again that on our revised application, we do show the differences from the original application to newly proposed in terms of the reduction in gross floor area, building coverage, total lot coverage, clearing, as well as the new proposed setbacks, which are greater than what was initially proposed.
And did you also include somewhere in here the relative size of home compared to the neighboring properties?
No, we don't have that, but we can provide that to the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go back to the first one we had up, Karen, the first image, that shows the proposed footprint in context of the aerial we're seeing now. Can you grab that one, Tyler?
Yes, 1 second, it'll come up.
Yeah.
It's the InterScience aerial overlay with the proposed site plan.
Yeah,
This
that
one,
one there,
this one?
right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there we see the proposed footprint is in the kind of the tan, the darker tan, and I think the pool terrace is a lighter tan. So you see that footprint there, board members, right? Compared, I mean, I think that's an overall comparison, a good comparison of the footprint of the neighboring houses comparatively.
Correct, and you can see based on this aerial the various the walkway, the deck.
Yeah. I don't know if board members want to have Karen do an analysis and pull the files of neighbors or not.
Well, since the planning department has indicated scale as one of the issues, I would be interested in how the overall scale compares.
Mhm.
And I find it interesting that that was not a part of the presentation.
Yeah. Well, then, Karen, could you do that? Could you pull those, get some GFA numbers for those neighboring residences?
Certainly, and I believe the architects may have some of that information, so we can certainly pull that together.
Yeah, good. We'll be leaving, the written record is going to be left open, as you know, 2 weeks from after the time the transcript is posted on the website. So you can easily fit it into that window, you know? I mean, if, sure you can. I'm assuming you can. Okay, board members, anything else? Any other comments or questions?
I think we were just waiting for.
Oh, you're getting Lee is coming back. Yeah. I don't know what maybe Tyler, while we wait for Lee,
Lee is available right now.
What was
His
Tyler's
line's
comment
open.
that you were referring to about, he talked about the site disturbance and
Oh, the erosion.
the erosion, yeah. Do
I'm
we have,
available when you're ready,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
There
sure,
you go.
So
Well,
I just
go ahead.
wanted to make one comment basically, and I agree with Tyler on his analysis of the coastal processes along this shore. It certainly is dynamic. I think one of the reasons that our property has remained stable is that if you look at the aerial photograph, you can see that the toe of the bluff is incised, basically, and there are two neighboring the properties have headlands on them, and so they take the brunt of the coastal storms that are presently coming in, and this is one of the reasons why that the top of the bluff and the bluff face have remained stable over the extended period of time. And then also, you know, I can't speak to local your local process about coverage, but from an engineering point of view and from a wetlands point of view, moving a house further away, which is really sitting on the top of the coastal bluff, seems like it would be a very good thing to do and actually improve the coastal resiliency. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, the two headlands actually on either side of the property help provide protection to our property.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, board members, for the consultant while he's on the air? No. Okay, Karen?
Unless the board has any further questions, we'll work on putting together a comparison of neighboring properties for submittal.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Terry, would you like to go ahead and close this out then?
Sure. If the application of Eric Cole, 84 Surfside Avenue in Montauk, tax map 300-051-04-14, make a motion to close the public hearing, leave the written record open for further submissions from the applicant and any other submissions from the public for 2 weeks from after the date of the posting of the transcript to the town website.
Second.
Concur?
And I concur as well. Thanks, Terry. And thanks, Karen and Tyler and all of you consultants for joining us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, we will move on, board members, with our agenda. Next, we have an extension of time. Nigel.
But actually not an extension of time. It's,
oh, I'm sorry. It's not. I beg your pardon.
It's under extension of time, but it's a request to extend a time to submit something.
Oh, yes, exactly, right. So really, this is a determination council. This would be really under.
Well, actually, it's neither. We're still doing the secret on the to remind the board. We're still waiting on reports back. The DEIS from both Nigel Curtis and Ruru, and those applications had a date in August, end of August, to complete those submissions that were in response to our scoping that we did several months ago. And they are, one of the applicants has submitted a letter requesting additional time to complete their DEIS that was originally supposed to be done by August 25th, and they're asking for time until October 30th to complete it, based upon difficulty coordinating with their experts due to the pandemic. Just to let the board know that there is there's no deadline that we'd be missing in our SECRA timetable, that the board has the authority to grant additional time in order to get this report.
Great, thank you, Nancy. Yes, and we all received the letter from Mandy Hammer with that request letter. I'll just read this into the record so we have it for discussion. So it's regarding Nigel Curtis at 393 Cranberry Hole Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-128-1-28.2. and it's regarding an extension of time request for purpose for completing the DEIS, as council mentioned. This is in my Amagansett district, board members, as you know, and we are in unusual times, and as we find ourselves meeting virtually this evening. So as council said, this isn't holding up any of our secret deadlines. So I'm fine with myself in allowing this 2-month extension, or plus or minus 2 months, till October 30th. Is it council? October 30th, I believe, the date?
October 30th is when have asked for. Yes.
Yeah. Board members, how do you feel?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I am as well. I would just note that we actually got 2 letters, and it was the letter dated August 13th from Tara Burke that specifically spelled out the date.
Right.
That's right. I remember the
October
first
30th,
letter did not
yeah.
spell out
Yeah.
a date. That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah. Terry, how do you feel?
Yep, I'm okay with that. This is just for Nigel Curtis, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
But in all probability, it establishes a little bit of a precedent, I would guess.
Well,
Yeah.
it's only for Nigel Curtis.
Right. Right.
So far, that's the only one that has requested.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Good point, Tim. So council will handle this by getting back in touch with the applicant.
Yes, we will, this, in the same manner in which we originally set the deadlines, we will notify them of the current, the amended deadline for their DEIS. And I think I sent around to the board several months ago what the next steps are, but I will send that again as we get closer to getting these, so that you know what will be on our plate once these reports have come in, and you kind of remember where we are in the process, because sometimes we can, other things get in the way and we forget. So
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Nancy Lynn, for all your work on that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Let's see. We will move on here. I guess we do not. We'll have plenty of work on our decisions on our next work session, which is September 15th. We do have a meeting next week, a busy meeting with 5 public hearings. We have the minutes from August 11th. I realized, unfortunately, I neglected to look into those meetings. Board members, I'm not sure if you've all looked at them, and if you're comfortable with them. I would defer
August
to you.
11th, I confess I have not looked at them.
Yeah. We have
Actually, I printed them out, so it's perhaps good that we're not moving forward with them, because I found them a little incomplete. Specifically the resolution section of them doesn't really indicate what we did. It just says resolutions and then lists them, but doesn't address what function the board performed as it relates to each of them. So I think they should be a little more specific on what we did or didn't do.
Great. Well, thank you, Tim, for that. We will all look into that, and I can work with Nancy and with Brittany and kind of guide that, and we'll try to get that straightened out. So I appreciate that, Tim. So we will table it. Having heard all this, we will table the minutes for this week. And then we'll move on to resolutions. And we have Matt Peters is applicant, and I will just read this in and we can move on with this. The lot size and location is 25 Seaview Avenue in Montauk, tax map number 300-49-2-24. It's a modification to allow a change in location of a septic system to meet Suffolk County Department of Health standards. And Terry, this is in your district, if you want to comment on this.
Yeah, well, I think we all remember it. This is one that it was the health department that would not permit the septic to be closer to the road, I believe it was, on this property on Seaview Avenue. So they're actually moving it to a better location ultimately, as it turns out, per the planning department. So I make a motion?
today you make a motion.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the resolution for Matt Peters at 25 Seaview Avenue, Montauk, tax map 300-49-2-24 to allow the
Second.
change in the septic system.
Second.
Concur.
And I concur. Okay, thank you, Terry. I will read the
It's
next.
adopting the resolution as it's written, Harry?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
written.
to adopt the resolution as written, yes.
That's
And I
That's
did read
exactly
it.
what she said.
Yes, I did read it.
Okay, thanks, Council. Thanks, Terry. Okay, wrapping up here, we have another one. This is Zorner Seaman, Gary Apria. And the applicant here is Monica Zwerner, Marcia Seaman, formerly Gary Apria. Size, location, 170 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map number 300-22-1-12.4. Again, this is a modification to allow the change in location of a septic system to meet Suffolk County Department of Health standards for an upgraded low nitrogen septic system. And again, Terry, we all know this one too. Would you go on, please?
Yeah, it was similar to the other one. It was allowed, we're allowing a change of location that I believe slightly did increase the variance from the original location of the septic system, but we did approve doing that. It was minimal. And again, to meet the Suffolk County Department of Health standards for their systems. Yeah, it got thrown at first because the names changed. Council put the current owners. And then I saw a prayer, so I remember.
Yeah, I do put them in there. When we have new owners, I try to add the new owners in so that there's some, it makes sense. We're not 3 owners behind.
Right.
Right, okay, that's a good thing. Right, so in the manner of Zwerner Seaman, formerly Aprea, at 170 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map 300-22-1-12.4. I make a motion to approve this modification in the change in the location of the septic system as written in the,
Second.
Concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you, Terry, and thank you, Council, for those. Council, anything else here?
No, we will have those extensions of time for you for next week. We're changing our format as the board knows that we're doing them like modifications and determinations and adopting them as written. They are going to look very similar to the modifications, a simplified form, so that there's some continuity and consistency with the determinations that the board produces. So that's what we're working on. We'll get those ready for you for next week.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy Lynn. I did see a draft, board members, and I think you're going to be pleased. Nancy Lynn made them very simple and straightforward, and I think they're going to be helpful, as we go on, pulling the files and knowing, when it was and the dates and that sort of thing. So thank you for your work on that, Nancy Lynn and Brittany. So we, board members, I guess that brings us to the end of our agenda.
well, Council, did we want to talk about that McCarthy thing that we spoke about today? Or for another time?
We're going to,
We're good.
there's during the review of McCarthy, there was the previous determination has some typographical errors in it. So when we do a determination one way or other on the public hearing we had today, we're going to fix the previous determination. And I've spoken with counsel or agent for the applicant, and they're fine with waiting to do that all at once and do both of them at the same time.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you all for a productive meeting. Vice Chair, I think we need one more motion from you, please.
Sure, therefore, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals hearing for Tuesday, August 18th at 8:44 p.m.
Second.
Concur.
And I concur as well. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all and have a good
Thank
evening.
you all.
Thank
Good to see
you.
you.
Good night.
See you soon.